Hey everyone, my name is Jonathan. I'm the minister of students here at First Baptist. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. I am standing in our youth room where I would usually stand on a given Wednesday night, just for a sense of normalcy and change of scenery. So if these lights are a little distracting, I apologize. I may stand somewhere else in a different video. But on Wednesdays, we are going through this very challenging, eye-opening book called The Unsaved Christian, by Dean Inserra. And this is if you are like me and you grew up in the church, then much of this resonates with you and how this idea of cultural Christianity is all around us. And so the book centers on the passage in Matthew 7, where Jesus encounters religious leaders at the Sermon on the Mount, and they give Jesus this laundry list of all these things that they've done, and that's why they're good people, and that's why they should enter the kingdom of heaven, to which Jesus replies, "Depart from me, I never knew you." And so what Dean argues in this book is that cultural Christianity, or what some people would say almost Christian, is not Christian at all. That is that group that Jesus is referring to, depart from me, I never knew you. So in chapter 2, Dean outlines two groups of people, a fictitious family called the Camp family, and then himself. And so in the Camp family, again, is fictitious, but he outlines things that they do. Dad works this job, and daughter's on this soccer team, and they recite their prayers, every night. But here's what Dean says about this fictitious family, about their values and how they perceive church and God. And Dean says, so church is a good thing in the Camp's eyes, especially for the kids, since it is a place where they learn good moral lessons. And when they finally do make it to church, they admittedly feel good about themselves and it gives the kids a chance to wear their monogrammed church clothes. Being seen as a family that doesn't take the kids to church would be embarrassing to Nana, and the passive-aggressive comments at the family gatherings would be unbearable. Even when the Camps lived in a different state for Brad's job, Nana would ask Sophie every Monday on the phone whether she took my grandkids to church. It drove Sophie crazy now getting back in the same town. She can't even lie about the church's attendance. Attending a different church than Nana and Poppy in the same town would be worse than not attending at all. So Dean outlines this family where attending church is more of an obligation, and what they gained from church is not a connection with their Creator, but where it's more of like a pat on the back and a moral, hey, good job for doing that. The second group that Dean mentions is himself, and in his own testimony says that how he was raised in a Christian church, Christian family. He was involved in church as a result of FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, because of a cute girl, not because of Jesus, just because, and he likes sports, so he said, I wanted to do that. And he went to an FCA camp because he likes to play games, and he was hoping that cute girl would be there. And in the middle of this FCA camp, the camp pastor, the speaker, who was this a professional football player, presented an invitation to where Dean did not respond. And the reason Dean did not respond was because Dean felt like he had checked off those boxes in his own life and that he was a good moral person. But as this invitation carried on, as sometimes it can do, the invitation was kind of twofold, where the pastor read Matthew chapter 7, where Dean looked at his own life and realized that just because he went to church, just because he said his prayers, all those things, he realized that there was a gap in his own life, to where Dean says, how was it that I had been to church my entire life and nobody had ever told me this news of the hope in the gospel? And so these are challenging. These are challenging words. And so listen to Dean's conclusions about what he says about cultural Christianity. And as I read this, if you're with your family, think of your own family, think of your own personal relationship with Jesus and see if this would apply to you. In response to that fictitious camp family, he says, if asked about their faith, they wouldn't be uncomfortable, but they would respond with answers about going to church and being good people. Church is a place where basic social expectations are met in the name of morals, family, and tradition. This is understandable since the idea of church isn't linked much to belief in Jesus or any demand that scriptures would place on those who claim to be Christians. It is very important to the camps that they be viewed as good people, the way they portray themselves on social media. They want to be seen as a well-rounded American family that goes to church when they can. The camps are not defensive or awkward when it comes to questions about their beliefs. They certainly believe in God, and as far as they are concerned, they always have and always will. But if the conversation moved to questions about Jesus, salvation, and the gospel, it would be a different story. They would have a smile, but then suddenly feel awkward because they would be clueless about what any of those questions about Jesus and the gospel have to do with them personally. So as we just encounter what this means in cultural Christianity, we have to examine our own hearts. So the two questions that I would kind of leave you with as a discussion or as a thought-provoking would be, what is the spiritual temperature of your own heart? What about your household? What about our church? What about our community? Are we people that fear the Lord, or are we seeking to check the box because it's what you're supposed to do? The second question, do you live in a place where Jesus is admired but not worshiped? Do we live in a place where Jesus is admired but not worshiped? So as we conclude this video, I want to just challenge you to look at your own heart, to see the motive for why you do what you do, and is it for Him or is it for others? We strive to be authentic in our faith. So as we wrap up this video, our memory verse this past week has been 1 Corinthians 13:13. Now these three remain: faith, hope, and love, but the greatest of these is love. Our memory verse for this week is we want to not recognize our graduates, but we want to kind of honor them with this verse, and that's Joshua 1:9. Joshua 1:9, and I'm going to kind of give a running start, starting in verse 6 as we read this. It says, "Be strong and courageous, for you will distribute the land that I swore to their fathers and give them as an inheritance. Above all, be strong and very courageous, to observe carefully the whole instruction my servant Moses commanded you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left, so that you will have success wherever you go. This book of instruction must not depart from your mouth. You are to meditate on it day and night, so that you may carefully observe everything written in it. For then you will prosper and succeed in whatever you do." And here's our memory verse, verse 9. "Haven't I commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go." And if I read that and I asked you what sticks out to you, or what's the main theme, it would be pretty obvious to see that the theme of being strong and courageous is the theme. Just in those 3-4 verses, he says it 3 times. And so that's something we should take note. But I would argue that there's something different that we should focus on. And that word is the word for. F-O-R, for. Because in verse 9, he says it. He says, "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or discouraged. For the Lord your God is with you wherever you go." I miss you all. You know, when I think about our graduates, when I think about as we are struggling in all this, so, you know, we don't want to hear the words, "We're in this together." Yay. But what I want you to hear is that we are with this with the Lord. For the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Don't forget youthgroupathome.com tonight at 7 p.m. And you have received an email from our church staff about a survey about just some things that we want to pick your brain about what it would look like to reopen and what you're comfortable or not comfortable with. So please get that survey in and done no later than by Sunday. I love you. I miss you. I'm praying for you, and I hope to see you all very soon.